Could this be the last time we ever see Dolly Parton take the stage? That's the question echoing through every corner of country music right now. When news broke that Dolly was canceling multiple public appearances, including her long-awaited Las Vegas residency, fans around the world feared the worst. Was the Queen of Country finally hanging up her rhinestones? Or was something much deeper happening behind the glittering smile? For over 6 decades, Dolly Parton has been the heartbeat of American music, a symbol of laughter, resilience, and heart. She's a woman who made the impossible look effortless, turning poverty into poetry, heartbreak into harmony, and pain into purpose. But even legends have limits, and behind the sparkle of sequins, there's a story the world was never meant to see. A story of health battles, personal loss, and unbreakable spirit. In recent months, whispers from Nashville have painted a portrait of a woman finally slowing down. But what if slowing down doesn't mean giving up? What if it's the prelude to something even greater? A final act written not in fear, but in faith. Today, we're peeling back the glitter and stepping into the raw, unfiltered reality of Dolly Parton's life. Her struggles, her triumphs, and the inner fire that refuses to go out. Because if there's one thing the world should know by now, it's this. You can dim the lights, but you can't dim Dolly's shine. And before we talk about her comeback, we have to understand why she had to stop in the first place. It all began quietly. No grand announcement, no farewell tour, no final bow. Just a few simple words that left millions stunned. Postponed. Her Las Vegas residency, a project years in the making, suddenly pushed back. A series of planned appearances at Dollywood and the Oscars Governors Awards quietly taken off the schedule. For someone who's performed through exhaustion, illness, and heartbreak, this was unlike Dolly. Fans began to wonder, was this simply exhaustion or something more? The truth, insiders say, is that Dolly finally listened to her body. A body that's carried 6 decades of constant travel, recording, film sets, and late-night performances. After years of pushing herself beyond limits, her doctors urged rest. And for the first time, Dolly agreed. But rest, for Dolly, isn't retreat, it's a reflection. In her own words, she's not retiring. She's refocusing. She knows she's in a different chapter of life. And she's learning that strength doesn't always mean running harder. Sometimes it means knowing when to pause. Still, this decision shook the industry. Because Dolly Parton doesn't just perform, she radiates. Her absence felt like a light flickering in the heart of Nashville. But as the world worried, Dolly was quietly preparing for something bigger. This pause wasn't the end of her story. It was the calm before her next creative storm. And to truly understand why that pause mattered, we have to go back to where it all began, in the Smoky Hills of East Tennessee, where a little girl with a guitar and a dream learned that even the smallest voices can echo through generations. Long before the fame, the wigs, and the rhinestones, there was a tiny wooden cabin tucked deep in the Great Smoky Mountains. That's where Dolly Rebecca Parton was born, one of 12 children in a family that had more love than money. Life in Locust Ridge wasn't easy. There were nights when dinner was cornbread and prayers, days when shoes were a luxury. But in that humble home, something extraordinary was being shaped, a spirit that refused to break. Music became her escape. Her first guitar, a gift from her uncle, became her weapon of hope. She'd sit on the porch, singing to the mountains, believing they were her audience. And in those moments, a legend was being forged, not in luxury, but in lack. Her mother taught her faith, her father taught her grit. Together, they gave her the 2 things she'd need to survive fame: heart and humility. That upbringing became the foundation for everything Dolly is today. Every lyric she writes carries echoes of that little cabin. Every smile hides the memory of struggle turned into song. While the world saw glamour, she never forgot poverty's lessons: generosity, compassion, and gratitude. So when people wonder how Dolly keeps her joy through loss, criticism, and exhaustion, the answer lies here, in the mountains, in the lessons of a family that believed that hard work and kindness could move mountains. And one of the greatest lessons she carried from that home was love. Because in the middle of all her dreams, she met someone who would quietly change her life forever. It was 1964. Dolly had just arrived in Nashville, chasing her dream with nothing but a suitcase and a notebook of songs. On her first day, she walked into a laundromat, and that's where she met Carl Dean. He wasn't from the music business. He wasn't dazzled by fame. He was just a young man who saw a girl with wild hair and an even wilder spark, and he fell instantly in love. Their love was quiet, private, and steadfast, the opposite of Dolly's public life. While the world screamed her name, Carl stood in the shadows, cheering her on. He hated the spotlight, but adored the woman in it. They married in a private ceremony, away from reporters and noise, just two souls promising forever. For nearly 6 decades, their love became her anchor. When critics mocked her image, he'd say, "You're my girl, and you're perfect." When the world called her too much, he'd call her just enough. Their bond wasn't built on fame, it was built on friendship, laughter, and faith. They renewed their vows quietly, surrounded by family years later. No glitz, no cameras, just love. And for Dolly, that private devotion became her greatest treasure. "He's the home I come back to," she once said. But no amount of love, no matter how deep, can stop time. And one day, that love story would face its hardest test, a heartbreak that would change the rhythm of Dolly's life forever. The world didn't know right away. Dolly didn't want it to. She grieved in silence, away from cameras and interviews. The day Carl Dean passed, Dolly lost more than a husband. She lost her heartbeat. He had been her constant through storms, her laughter through pain. And suddenly, the woman who gave the world joy was standing in quiet heartbreak. But even in grief, Dolly did what she's always done. She turned pain into purpose. Music became her prayer. Out of that sorrow came one of her most emotional songs, "If You Hadn't Been There," a love letter, not of sadness, but gratitude. Every lyric whispered his presence. Every chord carried her loss. Friends say she poured herself into work not to escape, but to honor him. Because Carl had always believed in her music, and she knew that continuing was her way of saying thank you. In those months, Dolly redefined what strength looks like. It wasn't loud or glamorous. It was a woman smiling through tears, singing through pain, and proving that love doesn't end, it evolves. That season of loss didn't break her. It remade her. And out of that quiet pain came a new fire, one that would soon fuel her boldest creative era yet, the reinvention of Dolly Parton herself. After Carl's passing, most expected Dolly to retreat completely, to fade gracefully into memory, as so many icons do. But that's not how legends are written. For Dolly Parton, silence became her workshop, her sacred space to rebuild what fame and grief had taken apart. She didn't rush back into the spotlight. She reappeared softly, through her music, first with intimate acoustic performances and later through heartfelt interviews where she began to share pieces of her healing. "I don't believe in endings," she said once. "I believe in chapters." And that single sentence captured exactly what she was doing, writing a brand new chapter in the story of her life. This reinvention wasn't about image or style, it was about purpose. Dolly began redirecting her focus toward legacy, not as a celebrity but as a creator. She revisited old songs, giving them new life with modern arrangements. She started mentoring young country artists, quietly ensuring that the next generation understood not just the sound of country music, but its soul. And perhaps the most surprising move of all, she stepped into rock music. Her 2023 album Rockstar was more than a genre shift. It was a statement. Collaborating with icons like Elton John, Paul McCartney, and Stevie Nicks, Dolly reminded the world that age doesn't define creativity, passion does. The album wasn't born out of ambition, but out of curiosity. "I wanted to honor the people who shaped the music that shaped me," she explained. And that project reignited her relevance in a world that sometimes forgets its roots. Behind the scenes, Dolly was also working tirelessly on philanthropic efforts, from expanding the Imagination Library to launching educational grants for underprivileged children. Her giving spirit became as legendary as her voice. For her, kindness was the true encore. Her comeback wasn't a roar, it was a whisper that echoed across generations. Dolly wasn't proving she still had it, she was proving she never lost it. And yet, just when the world began to celebrate this new Dolly, a fresh wave of speculation began swirling. One that would once again test her grace and the limits of fame. Fame has a long memory, and sometimes it remembers what it shouldn't. As Dolly's quiet reinvention began to shine, the internet did what it always does. It started whispering. Rumors surfaced claiming that Dolly's health was failing again, that she was stepping away permanently, or even that she had secret struggles hidden behind her smile. Some tabloids went as far as claiming she was battling a mystery illness. Others speculated she was preparing a farewell tour to mask the reality that she might never perform again. None of these claims were verified, yet they spread like wildfire, amplified by social media and curiosity. But Dolly, as always, handled it with unmatched grace. She didn't lash out or feed the drama. Instead, she addressed it the Dolly way, with humor. During an interview, when asked about her supposed retirement, she laughed and said, "I don't plan to retire. I plan to rewire." That one line silenced the noise better than any press release could. Still, fans couldn't help but worry. Every canceled appearance or quiet month sparked new theories. But those who knew Dolly closely knew the truth. She wasn't hiding pain, she was guarding peace. After decades of giving the world her all, she was learning to give herself rest. And through it all, she did something that shocked everyone. She turned that public curiosity into purpose. Instead of letting gossip define her, she used it to remind her fans what truly mattered: gratitude, generosity, and grace. But as the world debated her future, Dolly was already crafting her next unexpected project, one that would bring her closer to the heavens than ever before, literally. It sounded like something out of a dream or a fairy tale only Dolly Parton could write. In 2024, she announced that a time capsule containing her unreleased song, My Love Will Live On, would be launched into space aboard a lunar capsule set to land on the moon. The song won't be heard until 2045. This wasn't a publicity stunt, it was a symbol. Dolly said she wanted to leave a piece of her heart where time can't touch it. For her, music has always been eternal, and this project became the literal embodiment of that belief. Fans were astonished. After decades of sharing her voice with Earth, Dolly was now sending it to the stars. It was poetic. The girl from the Smoky Mountains, whose voice once echoed through wooden valleys, would now echo through space. Behind that dream was a deeper message: legacy. Dolly wanted future generations, long after she's gone, to know what it means to believe, to love, and to create. If someone hears that song 100 years from now, she said, I want them to feel the same hope I felt writing it. It was the perfect symbol for her journey, transcending fame, time, and even mortality. And yet, even as she looked toward the stars, her feet remained grounded in the soil of home. She never forgot where she came from. That grounding became even clearer in what she did next, something that left fans teary-eyed and proud. Amid all the rumors, records, and reinventions, Dolly returned to the one place that has always been her sanctuary, Dollywood. More than just a theme park, it's a living monument to her story. Every ride, every show, every corner reflects a piece of her journey, from mountain cabins to music halls. But this time, her visit wasn't for performance or publicity. It was for purpose. She quietly began expanding Dollywood's foundation programs, building scholarship funds, launching STEM initiatives for rural kids, and developing new creative spaces for young songwriters. Visitors who saw her there said she looked at peace, smiling, hugging fans, laughing with staff. There was no spotlight needed. The light was already within her. This was Dolly Parton at her purest, giving back to the land that gave her everything. She spoke openly about what home means to her now. It's not just where you're born, she said. It's what you build for others. That philosophy became the golden thread tying together her life. Fame turned into faith, and success turned into service. Her return to Dollywood symbolized the full circle of her journey. from humble roots to global legacy and back to the heart of Tennessee. But as the sun set over the Smoky Mountains that evening, fans couldn't help but wonder, was this her final bow or the start of one last masterpiece? When asked recently how she wants to be remembered, Dolly smiled and said, "As someone who tried to leave this world a little better than she found it." And maybe that's exactly what she's done. From the hills of Tennessee to the stages of the world, Dolly Parton has proven that fame fades, but faith endures. She turned tragedy into art, gossip into laughter, and aging into inspiration. Every time the world doubted her, she answered not with words, but with work. Her career is no longer just about music, it's about meaning. Every book she donates, every child she inspires, every melody she sends into space is part of a living testament that kindness outlasts applause and compassion never goes out of style. And as for the question everyone's still asking, is Dolly Parton retiring? Maybe that's the wrong question. Maybe she's not stepping away. Maybe she's stepping into something higher, something eternal. Because legends like Dolly don't end. They evolve. Her story reminds us that true greatness isn't measured by charts or tours. It's measured by hearts changed, dreams ignited, and hope kept alive through generations. And perhaps that's why, even when the music stops, her song will keep playing in every voice that dares to dream the way she once did. So maybe this isn't a goodbye. Maybe it's a beginning. Dolly Parton's journey has never been about perfection. It's been about perseverance. Through pain, through rumors, through triumphs and tears, she's shown us how to keep shining even when the spotlight fades. As the lights dim on this chapter, one truth remains. You can take the girl out of the Smoky Mountains, but you can never take the mountains out of the girl. And maybe that's the real magic of Dolly Parton. She reminds us that joy is a choice. Kindness is power, and legacy is love written in music. But what do you think? Do you believe Dolly is preparing for her final bow? Or is she crafting one last surprise for the world? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, because this story, like Dolly's music, belongs to all of us.